63 applicants stood in the glass lobby of the Nexara building, broad, polished, every one of them dressed in black. Then the door turned, and Dominic Shaw walked in. Wrinkled shirt. Von Gumpe. Behind him, a 6-year-old girl clutching a white stuffed rabbit. The laughter came immediately. Someone said it looked like a preschool drop-off. Dominic didn't turn around. He set his daughter down, smoothed her hair once, and walked onto the floor. 30 seconds later, Logan Cross, 253 pounds of regional MMA champion, was face down on the mat. Nobody laughed after that. Not even Giselle Park, who had stepped close enough to see everything, her heart moving faster than she was prepared to admit. The man they mocked would become the only one standing between her and everything she was about to lose. That Monday morning had started like any other at the Nexara building, 42 floors of blue glass rising above the east side of the city, home to one of the most quietly powerful security technology firms on the eastern seaboard. But the first floor that day had been converted into something else entirely. 63 candidates filled the lobby in 2 long rows, each one carefully selected, each one arriving with the particular posture of a man who believed he was the obvious answer to the question being asked. Former police officers, professional fighters, ex-military contractors, men who had spent years being paid to look dangerous and had become very good at it. The air smelled like ambition and shoe polish. Then the revolving door turned, and Dominic Shaw walked in. Hunter Voss crossed the lobby before the registration clerk could speak. He was 38 years old, thick through the shoulders, with the particular confidence of a man who believed he had already won a competition that hadn't finished. As acting head of security for Nexara Group, Hunter had reasons to be unsettled by today's tryout, and he had chosen to let that unease come out as cruelty. He stopped directly in front of Dominic, close enough to establish the size difference. "This isn't a daycare, friend. The preschool entrance is in the basement." More laughter from the chairs. Logan Cross, sitting in the front row with his arms crossed and one leg stretched out like he owned the floor, gave a slow nod. Logan was 253 pounds of professional MMA fighter who had won 3 regional championships in the last 4 years. He was also the most obvious choice for this position, and he knew it. He had been enjoying the morning. Dominic looked at Hunter directly. His voice carried no heat. "I have an appointment at 9. My name is on your list." Hunter checked the tablet. Something moved across his face, a brief tightening that he covered quickly. The name Dominic Shaw sat at the top of the candidate roster, added late Sunday afternoon, added personally by Giselle Park, CEO of Nexara Group. Hunter tapped the screen and handed the tablet back to the clerk without explanation. He gestured toward the main hall with a short movement of his chin. Luna was escorted to a small waiting area near the reception desk, where a junior staff member had set up coloring books and a low table. She sat down, placed Pepper on the chair beside her, opened to a blank page, and began to draw without a word. Dominic walked into the main hall. The first round was not about strength. It was about judgment. Each candidate was given 3 minutes at a standing desk, 1 interviewer, a list of situational questions, no time to rehearse. The men ahead of Dominic arrived with laminated credentials, printed service records, framed photographs of themselves with notable clients. One man had brought a folder 12 pages thick. 2 of them opened with the phrase, "I've been doing this for 15 years." Dominic came to the desk with nothing in his hands. The interviewer looked up. "Your CV?" Dominic set a single sheet of white paper on the desk. On it was a phone number and 1 line of text. "Call this number if you need verification." The interviewer studied it. Hunter Voss, standing nearby with his arms folded, let out a short breath through his nose, the sound a person makes when they've decided to be patient in a theatrical way. "You're serious?" Hunter said. "Very," Dominic said. The second part of the first round was a response assessment. Each candidate watched a 90-second video of a simulated threat environment, a crowded event space, multiple actors moving through the frame, a principal figure in the foreground, and had 30 seconds to identify danger points and propose a response protocol. Logan Cross watched the video, paused 2 seconds, then identified 4 of the 6 marked threat positions. He spoke clearly and with authority. The room gave him quiet approval. Dominic watched the video once. He stood with his arms at his sides and said, 6 marked positions. 2 unmarked. The camera dead zone behind column 3 on the left side gives an unobserved approach angle of approximately 4 feet. And the man in the green jacket has shifted his hand position 3 times since the video began. He's carrying something he hasn't decided to use yet. The room was quiet for 2 seconds. Hunter said, "Lucky guess." Dominic said nothing. He returned to his seat. Upstairs on the 38th floor, Giselle Park was watching the feed from the assessment room on the monitor above her desk. She sat in a straight-backed chair with a notepad on her knee that she had not written on in the last 20 minutes. Her assistant, Madison Cole, stood near the door. "He doesn't look like the usual type," Madison said carefully. "No," Giselle said. "He doesn't." 3 weeks earlier, an unmarked envelope had arrived on Giselle's desk. Inside was a 12-page document, a detailed summary of one Dominic Shaw, service record, skill assessment, personal profile. No sender name, no return address. At the bottom of the last page, a single typed sentence. "She will need him." Giselle had run the sender's number. She had not yet received a name in return. On the monitor, Dominic sat in his chair with the same expression he'd had since walking in. Not bored, not performing patience, simply present. Giselle tapped her pen once against the notepad. Then she set it down. When the bracket for the physical round was posted on the board in the main hall, the room read it with the focused attention of men who understood what it meant. Most matchups were reasonably balanced. One was not. Hunter Voss had scheduled Dominic Shaw against Logan Cross. It was not an accident. Hunter had arranged the bracket himself that morning, and he had placed the matchup with the particular satisfaction of a man who believed he was solving a problem. If Dominic Shaw, this quiet, unpedigreed, single-father anomaly who had appeared out of nowhere on the CEO's personal list, could be removed cleanly in the first round of the physical assessment, then the whole matter could be resolved before it became inconvenient. Logan Cross read the bracket and smiled. Not a cruel smile. Logan was not cruel by nature. He simply did not see it as a contest. The other candidates drifted toward the outer ring of the mat area. A few pulled out phones. The mood in the room had become something between entertainment and foreplay. They were going to watch the big man erase the puzzle, and then the day would make sense again. Upstairs, Madison leaned close to the monitor and said quietly, "Giselle, they've put him against Cross." Giselle was already standing. She straightened her jacket and walked to the door. "You're going down?" Madison asked. "The screen is too small," Giselle said, and stepped into the corridor. She arrived at the entrance to the training floor without announcement. No advance notice, no escort beyond Madison, who followed 3 steps behind and said nothing. The moment Giselle appeared in the doorway, the energy in the room changed. The ambient tension of men competing with each other collapsed into a different kind of attention. Spines straightened. Conversations stopped mid-sentence. Hunter moved toward her immediately. "Miss Park, there's no need to." "Continue," she said, looking past him toward the mat. She did not look at Logan Cross. She had already assessed Logan. He was what he appeared to be: powerful, experienced, and completely legible. She looked at Dominic. He was crouching near the edge of the mat, retying the lace on his left shoe. He was not looking at Logan. He was not looking at the crowd. He was not looking at her. In the 12 years since Giselle Park had become the youngest CEO in Nexara's history, she had sat across from hundreds of people who were trying very hard to make an impression on her. Dominic Shaw was the first person in recent memory who appeared to have no idea she was worth impressing, or had simply decided it was irrelevant. That single fact held her attention more than anything else she had seen all morning. Logan Cross rolled his neck, stepped onto the mat, and looked down at Dominic with something approaching generosity. "You sure you don't want to give your spot to the next guy?" A low wave of laughter moved through the room. Dominic finished tying his lace. He stood up. He did not respond to Logan. He did not look at the crowd. He stepped onto the mat and turned to face the center of it with the calm of a man who had already decided what was about to happen and found the decision unremarkable. In the reception area down the hall, Luna had stopped coloring. She was looking through the narrow window in the wall, watching without climbing from her chair. The young staff member beside her glanced between the girl and the mat. "Is your dad strong?" the woman asked. Luna held Pepper a little tighter. "He doesn't lose," she said. "But he never says that himself." The referee raised his hand. The room held its breath. The timer started. Logan Cross came forward immediately, no hesitation, no warm-up feinting. He had ended 4 matches already that morning, all within 40 seconds, all with the same sequence. Close the distance, establish grip, control weight. It had worked perfectly every time. He applied it now with the confidence of a man repeating a proven equation. Dominic moved back, not scrambling one precise step, shifting his weight to the outside edge of his left foot in a way that redirected Logan's approach angle by approximately 6 degrees. It was barely visible. It was also the reason Logan's grip closed on air instead of shoulder. The room didn't understand what had happened. Logan recovered and came again. By the 9th second, Giselle had stopped breathing at her normal rhythm. She was watching Dominic's eyes. They were not tracking Logan's hands or feet the way a fighter's eyes usually tracked in reactive focus, following motion. They were still. He was reading something deeper, some sequence of information that lived below the level of individual movement. Logan attacked again, a 3rd time. Each time, Dominic gave him something a fraction of an opening, a half step of apparent vulnerability, and each time, the follow-through found nothing there. Giselle's right hand had found the door frame at some point, without her noticing. At the 17th second, Dominic's eyes changed, a minor contraction, barely perceptible. He had seen what he needed to see. He had spent 16 seconds not fighting Logan Cross. He had spent 16 seconds learning him. At the 18th second, Dominic stepped in instead of back. What followed happened too quickly for most of the room to track cleanly. One arm controlled Logan's elbow at the joint. The other made a small, decisive adjustment to his center of gravity, not a throw in the traditional sense, but a redirection so precise that Logan's own momentum became the mechanism of his descent. The technique was not MMA. It was not boxing. It was not anything the room could comfortably name. Logan Cross, 253 pounds, 3 regional titles, 4 straight wins that morning, hit the mat face down and did not move. Total time, 27 seconds. No one spoke. Dominic released his hold, stepped back, and stood upright. His breathing was unchanged. He turned his hands over briefly, a mechanical check, nothing more, and stepped off the mat. Hunter Voss was holding a sheet of paper. He did not seem aware that it had fallen from his hand until it made a small sound against the floor. The phones that had been raised to capture what their owners had assumed would be a short, decisive humiliation were still recording. No one had thought to stop them. Luna appeared at the doorway, having slid from her chair the moment she heard silence instead of noise. She crossed the floor to Dominic with the focused urgency of a 6-year-old on a mission. "Dad, are you done?" Dominic crouched down to her level. He looked at her face for a moment with the careful attention he gave to everything. "All done," he said. "Should we go find you some orange juice?" Luna considered this seriously. "With ice?" "With ice," he said. He stood, took her hand, and walked toward the hall exit. Behind him, Logan Cross was being helped to his feet by 2 other candidates who were doing their best to look as though they had expected this outcome. Giselle Park stood at the door. Her hand dropped from the frame. She turned and walked back toward the elevator without a word. Madison fell into step beside her, and for the length of the corridor, neither of them said anything.